Welcome back to another episode of today's economic news. I'm John, your ever-curious host here to unravel the complexities of global policies and their impacts on our everyday lives. Today, we are stepping into the maze of geopolitics and national security with a groundbreaking story that could alter the course of American defense policy. We are talking about the Trump administration's new National Security Strategy, NSS, a shift so profound it ripples through every household across our nation. But before we dive in, let me ask you, how much do you value the safety and the economic stability of your home? Keep that in mind as we explore this policy shift together. Before we delve into this story, let's set the stage for why you should be concerned and maybe a little angry. For the last 20 years, the US has funneled vast amounts of resources, billions of taxpayer dollars, into the Middle East, all in the name of counterterrorism. Wars were waged, lives were lost, and economies were strained under the weight of defense spending. After 9/11, we were told this was the price of security. But here we are, 2 decades later, and the focus has shifted. Are today's threats really that different? Or are we being led into another costly endeavor with just a new face? Before we look at today's disaster or opportunity, depending on who's talking, let's take a step back in time to understand how we reached this pivotal moment. Remember back in 2020, the Trump administration was under pressure to redefine priorities in a rapidly changing world. The message was clear: the era of terrorism dominating policy was ending. The attack on 9/11 firmly set the stage, reshaping global politics and embedding terrorism as the top threat in the minds of leaders. Resources were poured into destabilizing regions as the U.S. aimed to root out extremism in the Middle East. However, as international landscapes evolved, the spotlight moved westward. Nations like China and Russia arose as formidable adversaries, not next door, but influencing power dynamics even in our backyard, Latin America. This geographical pivot culminated in the revival of the Monroe Doctrine, echoing sentiments from 1823, where the U.S. claimed a protective stance over its hemisphere, now repurposed to ward off unwanted foreign influence. But now, the administration's intention is to pull back from the Middle East and place greater emphasis on threats closer to home, issues such as mass migration and cartel violence, along with the looming geopolitical tensions in the Americas. But what does this really mean for the average American? That's what we'll explore next. We've got hard data from recent events that emphasize the volatile nature of security threats still prevalent today. On November 15th, a precision strike occurred targeting operations outside of the usual Middle Eastern focal points. And then, within our own borders, there were 2 National Guard members shot in Washington, D.C., highlighting domestic vulnerabilities. To give you a framework, this might just seem like a lineup of isolated incidences, but make no mistake, each event underlines the unpredictable security landscape we navigate daily. Let's employ the John method here. That precision strike on November 15th wasn't just a military note. It was a statement, translated into everyday terms. It's investing millions, yet creating disruptions and breeding new adversaries, further risking national safety. And what's the gain? Are we now safer than before, or just chasing an endless circle of new conflicts over fundamental peace? Consider the contrasting quotation. The days in which the Middle East dominated American foreign policy in both long-term planning and day-to-day execution are thankfully over. They talk about moving on, but can we afford to? Another notable voice warns, the United States may be done with the Middle East and terrorism, but terrorism and the Middle East are not done with us. Do they think we are so easily distracted? While some argue that refocusing resources is a wise call, others, and rightly so, voice concerns about leaving voids our strategic rivals might eagerly fill. Now, let's dive into what I like to call the libertarian rant. Follow along closely, because these next few minutes could open your eyes to the pitfalls hidden beneath the policy rhetoric. The rebalance of national security focus is being presented as a necessary evolution. But let's not be naive. It diverts resources that could weaken our economic stability. It's the classic shell game, my friends. Public funds are shuffled around, potentially heightening debt and inflating the economy. Who bears the brunt of these diversions? You guessed it, the average citizen. Inflation doesn't just mean prices rise. It equates to you spending more for the same security you thought you had yesterday. And then there's the question of government competence. With borders expanding and focus on issues relating to migration and cartel activities, can we trust the current systems to safeguard effectively? History would suggest otherwise. Each misstep here potentially invites chaos and undermines community safety, all in the name of this new strategic vision. Let me pose the ultimate question. Could the American dream become collateral damage as administrative oversight creep threatens personal freedoms? As we wrap up, let's boil this down to a single takeaway. This NSS shift appears to be a tactical adjustment towards new age threats, possibly tangled up in misallocation of resources and government intrusion. If you're tired of paying for their mistakes, hit subscribe. Stay informed because knowledge is your strongest asset against questionable governance. I'm John, and until next time, let's keep questioning.